Bagunara. How are you? Any known faces there? You know me, I know you, kind of. Leda. They asked me to give that in the class, strategy session for anthropology. A very heavy word. And just before walking into the class, one student was asking this, how to prepare anthropology. I didn't know what to say. Because the question seems to be not more than 3 or 4 words, but the answer may get into several years. How many of us are not acquainted, nor are not really familiar with Telugu? Good numbers. From which place here? Karnataka? Telugu, I mean, it doesn't matter. Koncham o kalupukunte Bengaluru, Mysuru and so we will start up now. All of us have decided to be with anthropology, or we are just on the wall, this side or the side, which side to jump, and finally it depends on who is pushing you to which side. And somebody would push you, and then on that side you would start, kind of swimming, not knowing where to go and what we are doing, how we are doing. Update time chodaddu, we have just started. Time. Today being the first session, we would have a shorter one, maybe perhaps about 1.5 hours or so. And so how many of us have finally concluded that yes, we are going to be with this subject? Or maybe I would see the other hands, I mean, put them down. Who is not really in that confirmation? Not many of you. So I'm not talking to you people. I am only talking to those people who have maybe perhaps decided that we are going to study this subject. So on that note, I must start the day with maybe a warm congratulations to you. You might be wondering why I am congratulating. Congratulations for choosing something new to study. That's very important, actually. By the way, before I actually start talking, though you think that I have already started talking 5-10 minutes ago, but then how many of us are engineers here? Wow. Most of you, more than 120%. And rest of you? Any medicos there? Any medicos? Which field, ma'am? Huh? Ma'am? Oh, great. I have to see a dentist. Both of you? Dentists are the most richest fellows these days. My own brother is a dentist who is running about 3 hospitals there. Though he spent 6 years in clearing his 4-year course. That's a different thing. Settle down fast, so that I can. I would want to rather start by asking people, because you have decided, most of us have decided to be with anthropology. What do you think is anthropology? I'm not asking what is anthropology, what you think is anthropology. There's a difference there. Study of man, study of human evolution. Understanding what? Understanding humans and understanding culture, cultural behavior, social behavior. There's one chair there. There's one chair there. Understanding what? Study of man in time and space. Great. Ela telisinది మీకు? ఇంకా చదువుకోలేదు కదా? You still haven't studied anthropology, and how do you know so much? You ask me, I tell you that you don't need to do any classes. When you know the meaning of the subject, meaning of the word, it means that you have learned most of it. Because generally we don't teach the students in the very first class what is the meaning of anthropology. We tell them only towards the end of the course, so that you attend the entire course. Towards the end of the course we would tell, see, this is what is anthropology. I am really happy that anybody who had studied anthropology in your school, college or post-college, somewhere in your life, wow, look at that. Not a single person who must have studied anthropology, but then all of us, we know what it is. Thanks to the researchers that go on before you, actually so much of research you must have done, not simply on anthropology, several other subjects also. Half the geography you must have studied by now, half of political science you have studied, half of Pali literature and whatever literature, Bengali, Assamese and whatever. 22 subjects you must have learned, and finally you said in the alphabetical order anthropology is coming in the top of them. I mean, there are two other things, and then you said, okay, fine, let us go with that kind of. It is not simply any. Maybe because we have thought of studying for UPSC, we must have put a finger on anthropology. I don't think you have done that blindfolded, did you? You haven't done it blindfolded. See, sometimes when we have confusion of what to do, we close our eyes and put fingers, and then you say, okay, fine, we'll go with that. I do that many times in my life. 7, 10 solutions are there, you don't know which solution, which way to go, and then you put a finger there and then you try going that side. But I am sure, most of us, with all that wisdom, we have taken this decision. But then you see, the general crowd, because you are all well-read, now already you are well-read people in anthropology, you know the meaning of what is anthropology. But when we ask even the very highly qualified and educated academia, they blink before saying anything. For many of them, I think the word itself is new. I actually wanted to narrate one incident which had happened to me in the very recent past. I was traveling in a bus in Brisbane. I was supposed to go to the Gabba for that first T20 of that series between Australia and India. There's a lady sitting next to me, London-born Chinese lady married to a Brisbane man, and that's where race mixtures happen. It's like you are putting in a mixie and putting and getting the output, which is actually a clumsy combination of all those things. She's actually a teacher, so she was asking, what do you do? I said, I teach anthropology and I also do pastime field work and then try spending on the field. Then she had a wide face. She asked what it means. Then immediately I tried to open the Oxford Dictionary for her, and then I said that is what is the meaning of the term, the study of the human societies and cultures and how they have developed, and then say, wow. It is not simply her, for that matter. I'll just show something else there. One second. Don't worry, I'm not teaching you anything today. I generally don't teach anything.
What is anthropology? What do anthropologists do?
Oh, I'm a bit ignorant, but I would say it's to do with digging up bones.
Is it something to do with rocks?
Anthropology?
Is that a disease or something?
I think so.
Is it?
No, I think I know the word.
No, anthropology is the study of dinosaurs and artifacts.
Anthropology?
Yes, I know.
What do you think about it? What is
Very nice.
What anthropology is? What do you think it is? How would you explain to people what anthropology is?
I don't really know, really.
Okay.
It's difficult for me.
Give a guess.
I love anthropology.
Is it like the movement of people or something? Can't
Movement
remember.
of
No,
people?
I don't know. I have no
What do you
idea.
think?
Everyone's gonna guess.
Anthropology is it's a kind of study about the old and ancient animals. That's my idea.
Is that
Am I correct?
No.
Whoa, I'm sorry.
What is anthropology?
Yeah. What is it?
The science of the human.
If you look at the word anthropology, it's made up of two bits, anthropology.
So don't
This
worry.
is from the Greek.
If you don't know much, you are on a right path. If you know too much, then there is a difficulty. So though we are here to talk about anthropology in UPSC, I thought I would talk about something else to begin with. Because you see, when you bounce into people and, we have too many questions coming from the crowd. What do you do after engineering, after gold medal, what you're doing, then you say UPSC, and then what you do in UPSC. He doesn't know a word there, but then he keeps asking questions. Then you say, I study anthropology, then he would ask, what anthropology, does it give any job, etc. I thought I would talk about some of the very interesting job openings. This, generally we do as a part of regular course. As we do the course, we try to tell the students, see, these are the various things that you can perhaps do. But then I thought for you, I would begin with this in the beginning of the course itself. Because you see, how many of us have given the exam earlier? Okay, not many of you, but then this is a very, very bold decision actually. In order to use the word bold itself, my throat chokes. It's a very bold decision that you have taken this particular field, and it means that you have written off your youthful years to somebody else. Yeah, I meant what I say. Because these are the years when you should be in a very fun-filled life, and then you would be scaling heights, and that's where you are locking yourself up in the cabins, in the study rooms, and then against your endless number of books and thousands of pages, don't know what you study, how to study, and then you are trying to motivate yourself every minute and every day. The motivation vanishes every second minute, but then you try to bring it back and trying to put it on the paper there. Very difficult task. That's the reason why I don't congratulate people if you have chosen UPSC. I would only say all the best. But then when I was talking about choosing a new discipline, not simply anthropology for that matter, maybe you must have, if at all you had chosen some other X, Y, Z subject, a history, a pol science, or geography, whatever, even then I would have said congratulations, because I am sure most of us did not study these subjects, or for that matter did not study anything during our engineering. But then that calls for a congratulations for that matter. I was thinking of introducing to you some of the very interesting job opportunities, and you would be really shocked to see some of these. I mean, especially when you look at countries like the USA, Canada, or even South Africa. If you look at, you have too many opportunities for the so-called anthropologists. I would try to show certain things here. It's only to expose you to the discipline, and to say that everything is good, don't worry. If things go wrong in the life, the discipline would help you otherwise. Look at those blue-colored things at the top: innovation and insights analyst, special UI developer, insurance companies are hiring them. And then you have somebody like that, resume writers, you have demand generation officers. I mean, these are some of the titles that you see in various ministries in South Africa, various organizations in South Africa. The last two here, actually, those are. I mean, that's a particular company. That's a particular company working with with the specific cases of circumcision, and then the government has a program in South Africa that they have to be assisted, they have to be executed under the supervision of a medical officer. So several NGOs are coming forth to popularize this idea, because you cannot actually change the cultural aspects, but at least you can bring people into the medical surveillance and maybe try to limit the possibility of spreading life-threatening diseases, and that's where people like anthropologists are actually recruited for such kind of posts. It is not simply that, actually. If you look at the American Defense Department, there used to be, till 2014, there used to be one wing in the Defense Department called Human Terrain Systems. I mean, you can actually browse through back home. I mean, that should also be helpful to you elsewhere in your preparation. What they mean by human terrain systems is these are the social scientists who are recruited into the defense ministry for certain kinds of purposes. You see, say if when USA was in war with Iraq, you remember the whole lot of when they have started from Basra to Samarra, the entire route when the Allied forces were capturing and devastating the entire country, and after that you don't see anything but the dust there. When this was happening, they tried to use, even in Afghanistan, they tried to use human terrain systems. These are those experts in culture, in the sense that these are the people who have very close understanding about the internal aspects of the culture groups. See, outwardly, if you see from a distance, you may consider the entire Iraq to be one single lot, or maybe the entire Afghanistan to be one single lot. But if you go close, you will understand that there are several groups there which are not really friendly with one another. You can actually see to it that you can play one group against the other. You need not have to pay. You need not have to pay for the war. You need not lose your soldiers. You only have to instigate the warring factions, and then try to supply some kind of arm and ammunition, intelligence, etc. And then you can watch them fighting. I said so much. Am I okay? Are you okay with me? I love storytelling. I have a small fellow who insists on storytelling every night. So he sleeps off after my story. You don't sleep in the class. Those are human terrain systems. Anthropologists recruited into defense forces, giving cultural secrets to the defense forces. Maybe ultimately the people whom you have studied, they might be killed. They might be sabotaged. See, I'm not here really bothered about the ethical issues. Whether the anthropologist who is actually making his living by studying somebody, when he's handing over those secrets to the governments, and then because of the secrets that you are sharing with the government, they are actually killing your source material. Actually, when we go into the details of various topics in the syllabus, we will come to all these areas. What are the ethical issues involved? What is the role of anthropologists? What are the uses of anthropology? And when I say that, I'll show you something here. 2018 main examination, you have the question paper with you. I think you have the question paper with you. Paper 1, the very first question there, relevance of anthropology. What I have spoken till now, and what I am going to speak in the following statements, maybe another 5-10 minutes or so, all that forms part of the answer to this particular question. Relevance of anthropology. The only relevance we know as on today is, it may be a subject that gives a score for UPSC. And most of us must have chosen the subject, maybe because of that reason. Not that we love the subject, neither do we love the teacher. It may be because we love those marks out there. Apart from that relevance, we would be looking at various aspects that have applications in today's times. Now with that I would try to take you into some of the very interesting aspects. Let me, I don't want to ask any question there. Yeah, I'll begin with this. There's one article review. Harvard Article Review had published this in 2014, the March issue. You can go back and read. Very, very interesting essay there. An anthropologist walks into a bar. No big deal. We walk in every day and we don't want to come out till they throw us out. Actually, this is the essay. And those two are the very named anthropologists. They were the people who were writing about the experience of this particular company, which is generally known in UK, Finland, kind of European nations, Birko. They were actually narrating this story that Birko, which was actually making huge profits at one point of time, suddenly the profits were falling down. And the company was spending so much on the business promotion and then launching several new products, trying to attract people. They have serving girls, beautiful serving girls, and then several other such kind of events, but nothing is happening. So it was at that time they hired a group of anthropologists who spend a lot of time on various branches of Birko across Finland and UK especially, and trying to gather a lot of videos. Somewhere about 1,500 hours of videos were collected, several photographs, and then several interviews, and trying to see how they are functioning, how the salespeople are functioning, how the serving people, and then what type of crowd is coming, how is the kind of response of the crowd, and everything. When it was, all those are randomly collected information, and that information after a couple of months was submitted to the managing board there. And then when they were going into all those details, a picture was emerging. Though I'm not narrating the entire thing there, some of the highlighted issues include, though you were trying to recruit the beautiful serving girls there, they were not really motivated to work. They were not really motivated to work. And one reason is the lack of knowledge. They do not know the products of their own company. So if somebody was asking them for a product, maybe you should be in a position to say that, see, there's something that is better off. When there is something better off, maybe in taste, but then which may be slightly lesser in price. Just imagine you're walking into a shop, you are confused what to take, and then the shopkeeper, the seller there, would come up and say, though it is on a scale of cost, it may be a lesser one, but qualitatively this is superior, you purchase this. I bet in the eastern part of the world this doesn't happen. In the eastern part of the world it doesn't happen. The salesperson would always be in a rush to sell which is of a higher value rather than promoting the one with a lesser value. If you do the latter, I bet the buyer would keep on coming back to you, because there is the element of trust there. Keeping aside the element of trust, because we are going to talk about trust and other things in our cultural anthropology, because trust is also something that has to be examined. Some cultures are known for trust and some cultures are known for the other way around. So they understood that the girls did not have the knowledge of their products, and though the company was producing a lot of promotional material, most of the promotional material was there in the scrap boxes, and they were clearly written scrap or waste kind of a thing. You spent thousands of pounds there, and then all that is going into the trash bin, you're not properly making use of it. And such kind of a study may not be of a great interest for maybe a technical fellow who is busy producing the best possible wine He's not really bothered about how the material is used or how the body language has to be, how the kind of communication has to be with your clientele. When all this report was given, a beautifully prepared report, and they started to experiment, they started to change, and they started to categorize the kind of crowd they were getting. So if it is say an Israeli crowd, what kind of drinks that have to be served to them, or maybe if it is a French fellow, what kind of drinks that have to be served. There's a difference there. When all this was happening, Birko started coming back. This was happening. This is the kind of job. I'm not saying that you'll be restricted to the winery alone, which I'm sure you would want to be. But then I said something. There are no punishments for smiling. There's a new sub-discipline coming up there, corporate anthropology. There's a book that is for sale, that was 2004 written book, Thomas Davenport. He was actually writing the origin of corporate anthropology, meaning several corporate houses today are providing opportunities of jobs to anthropologists. Organizations like Intel was only one in the beginnings that started hiring anthropologists. But then these days we have many of them, including companies like Nokia. When they design the new products, you actually get into the cultural aspects. What is the choice of colors in a particular country? Because you see, you cannot launch the same product for every market. Different markets have different preferences. Say, for example, a very flamboyant fluorescent green or fluorescent pink color phone. I am sure a male would not purchase in western part of the world. But I am sure in the eastern part, I don't think there would be a major gender bias on that. You wouldn't mind purchasing something like a very fluorescent green or fluorescent yellow and orange. And then maybe perhaps because we see, you watch movies? You watch movies? Yeah, you should actually, you must. Huh? Emma, you don't watch movies? That's a crime actually. Unpardonable sin. God may forgive every other sin, but not this one. Because you see, without a discussion about a movie, my class is generally incomplete. I love movies so much that I die for them. The tingling feeling there, you really can't say no to it. We can actually look at today a small feature that your phones might be having, when you're typing a message. The general tendency we have is that we try to type our native, the regional language terms in English. If you try to read them in English, antakante bootulundo. Because in English we don't have the spellings for all our native words. So several phone companies are coming up with scripts that are coming up. So when you're typing, the script actually comes up in your native language. And you have beautiful records. Companies actually appoint social researchers to know what is the percentage, what is the number of people trying to type in this particular language. And based on the number of users of that language, they try to spend on them. They try to identify what is a powerful market for them. So all this can happen only with the involvement of social scientists. And this is that discipline that creates such kind of opportunities. I'm not getting into very technical kind of applications. If you look at your syllabus, chapter 12, paper 1. You're all fine with me? You're all fine. You're able to make out what I'm speaking in the class, which is a very surprising thing. That in the very first class you are able to understand what I'm speaking. My husband could never understand so far in the 7 years of marriage. Generally it happens, husbands never understand what the wife says. Even if you understand, you should pretend as if you haven't, to show that she is an intellectual. One thing is, before I go there, true that you have chosen UPSC, which is a very tiresome thing, burdensome thing. I mean, I do not know whether this should go into the video or not. But given a choice, if a young man comes and asks me whether I should go for UPSC or not, I would say no. I would point blank say no. So much of energy that you put in there. You have done your MBBS, Masters in MBBS, and medicine, and then things like that. And I don't know what you do here, studying Akbar and Aurangzeb and I don't know what. Don't know. There is much more beautiful life on the other side. Yeah? And hence, the bottom line is, don't have 5-year plans. Don't have 5-year plans. That this year you will attend the class. After the end of the class, you would start studying. And 1 year you give the attempt, you clear the prelim. That's the objective there. Clearing prelims 1 year, clearing mains the next year, and then clearing interview the next year. So already 4-5 years are gone. Several of the girls whom you wanted to marry have vanished one after the other. Because you see, for the boys, all my heart goes for you also, but they are in a very precarious condition, because look at the sex ratio in the census. The sex ratio in the census is so very heartening. My heart bleeds for the boys. Because already there's so much of competition out there. And you have wasted your youthful years. When you have sat down to study for UPSC, before UPSC you are a macho man. And when you started studying, you are tying yourself to that study chair for hours and days and months, maybe years. You did not notice that your tummy is coming out, your eyes are going inside. And one fine day when you think that you have cleared the exam and you have won the world, the moment you came out, it's not simply the service people are looking at you, they are looking at your pot belly there. What do you want, a beautiful girl or a pot belly? Choice is yours. Based on that, one has to decide whether UPSC or no UPSC. I'm so sorry, I'm not affecting the business of vision here. Because I have to tell you the reality also, because when we start studying for the exam, we are on the cloud, not 9, cloud 11 rather. Just because you have never failed a single exam in your life, you think that UPSC is a cakewalk. So many cakes vanish, your walk is still on. And this is, I think, a field that gives you, that may be giving you the very first taste of a failure in your life. The first taste of a failure in your life. Failures are good, but not many of them. And a beautiful thing UPSC can teach us is to be absolutely shameless. To be absolutely shameless. Because when you have failed once, you have said to the world, not simply you, your family also had said to the world, no, he didn't clear, she didn't clear. It has happened once, and then it has happened twice, it has happened thrice, now it doesn't bother us. Then finally one fine day when the result comes and you made it through, then people would say, I said that he will be something in UPSC. You don't know when they said that to you. Because you were already written off. Because you locked yourself out of any social contact. Because whichever marriages you are trying to attend, people are saying, attend out. Kind of. So, sir, if you are joining my course, I mean, most of my course will definitely be in English, but occasionally I slip into Telugu, so a neighboring fellow of Telugu is very necessary for you. So this is actually corporate anthropology. We have a number of companies that have been investing on anthropological knowledge in order to excel in their businesses. So, sir, there are two very significant meanings that I would want to bring here. You have already said that, one of you had already said that. In a common understanding, anthropology studies man across time and space, and it studies cultures of people from prehistoric times to the modern contemporary times. What you study about man, that depends. When you go into the syllabus, you would see diverse things. Some of the students have this habit of not being very regular to the class. So it may so happen that the day when you were attending a class, you were actually talking about maybe economic anthropology, economic aspects of the societies, and suddenly you are not there for a week or so. Then when you come back, people are talking about chromosomes and aberrations and diseases, etc. And you do not know. You start wondering whether I enter the same class or something else. So what is very, very important is to be regular in the class. As I take you into the course, I should also tell you this. You have a habit of writing? Slow writing or a faster writing? You don't know what is a faster writing. I'll teach you in the class what is this faster writing. Though I haven't still started talking about the subject, I should tell you this. I mean, today we are in December, 15th of December. My courses generally run for about 80 to 85 lectures, 3 hours each. 3 hours, no, I love 3 hours. Anything less than 3 hours is like watching an incomplete movie. If we make a movie that has to be for 3 hours, paisa vasool kind of a thing, you have spent 250 rupees there for a movie. Anything short there, one song less, one fight less, it doesn't savor us. So, ఏదో అన్నారు లేదా సినిమా ఇప్పుడు లెంగ్త్ తగ్గించేస్తున్నారు ప్రొడ్యూసర్లు ఏం చేస్తాం. And you should be mentally prepared, physically and mentally prepared to see me for a long time. Because you see, if it is a general studies course, you would have new and beautiful faces flashing in the class from time to time. This week one face and the next week the other face, at least you would have a new movie releasing every Monday. But in our case, the same hero, same villain and same whatever. Screenplay, darshakatvam, anni maname. Music, dance, anni maname. Ekkada asalu teda ledu. So, but then, you will have to be used to that. The 80 kind of. And then when you come to the class on Monday, if you have decided to be there with me, you should come with a proper notebook to write down. A couple of pens. We don't know when one pen stops working. Then you should not see here and there. A student of mine was writing a poem in Telugu. One of the sentences there is, "Enno agipoyina pennulu." So, don't know. When one pen stops working, then you should not depend on the others. Be self-reliant there. And then I'll also teach you in the first class how to write down notes. That's very important, actually. And then I'll also teach you how not to share your notes with others. Because that is a secret. Your notes is a very private secret. It's a love letter between you and me. because I know very well when I'm teaching, when I'm dictating in the class, how many mistakes in the spellings would happen there. And you should not be advertising those mistakes to the rest of the globe. Let the mistakes be there between me and you. And because I was a school teacher, I also try to go through your class notes from time to time. And I also give you a lot of homeworks so that so you might be remembering your kindergarten or maybe a primary school where you were asked to write the homeworks and things like that. So I'll take you from there. I was saying that this is a discipline that studies people, from people, cultures, from maybe prehistoric times to the contemporary times. No yawning in the class, please. This is one of the very primitive tribal communities, Zapukai. It is TJ. Zapukai, which is one of the Aboriginal tribes out of those 500 major Aboriginal tribes of Australia. That was one of the, I had studied 2 societies last year, in 2018. This was one society, Zapukai, which is actually a tribe that lives in that part of the country, Cairns, of Queensland, northeastern tip of the country there. And that's where it is generally said that the humanity had begun. They have these mythological stories. They say that humanity had begun there. Cultures have originated from there. In fact, when we go into the details of the course, we will be exposed to how our scheduled tribes, our Adivasis, are treated when compared to the so-called Aboriginal populations of that continent country. In fact, occasionally I feel so very good that at least we did not totally wipe out our people. We did not wipe out their cultures. The problem with them is, in many places, at least Zapukai knows its origins. There are several other tribes, they do not know their origins, they do not know their past. Just imagine, you don't know your past. It is so very uncomfortable. You don't know your origins. Sir, anthropology is one discipline that studies the origins of every cultural thing. I'll give you an example. Look at your syllabus, maybe perhaps chapter 3, paper 2. Just look for this word origin anywhere. Origin or evolution. You have one? Okay. And then maybe perhaps you go to the other ones like chapter 4, paper 1. Chapter 4, paper 1, evolution of political systems. You find it there? Evolution, chapter 4, paper 1. Chapter 4, paper 1. What syllabus are you looking at? Political organization and go ahead, go reading. When you are going through these terms there, band, tribe, chiefdoms, etc., these are nothing but how political systems have originated. So origins, evolutions of political systems there. You go to the previous chapter, chapter 3 in paper 1. You have several economic subsistence methods, like you have food gathering, sweatening, pastoralism, and horticulture. You find all those names there. So these are all, this is the evolution of economic subsistences there. Evolution, origin of economic subsistences. Go to chapter 5 in paper 1 itself. You find something called origin or evolution of religion. What is happening here is, or maybe perhaps, you look at chapter 1. There we go to 1.6 and 1.8. At one of them you have evolution of cultures. In 1.8 you are studying evolution of cultures, starting from maybe Paleolithic cultures, and then Mesolithic, etc. And you look at 1.6, you have several pre-human individuals. Did you notice that? People like Australopithecus, you have Homo erectus, you have Neanderthal man, or whatever it is. The bottom line is, this is a discipline that studies origin, evolution of every damn thing associated with the human. So basically, I was talking about Zapukai. These were the people inhabiting that part of the world and who believe that. So in the class, we are going to explore some of them. We would be sharing the very contemporary researches, research methodologies. Look at chapter 8, paper 1. Research techniques, methodologies, you know. As you go into, I think, the third part of that chapter, you find a detailing there, various methods of, you know, conducting research, case studies, maybe interviews, maybe participant methods, blah, blah, blah. You know, we are going to learn from there how exactly you gather the information, how you conduct the fieldwork. So we are going to explore this particular part. Generally what people think is the life of the primitive people or the aboriginals is a very happy and colorful one. Look at them. I look much fairer there. And they actually wanted me to paint totally, but then I said, no problem, you can use my face for your painting. Interestingly, the man there, he has the impeccable English. And when he explains about his culture, many times we will have to turn to the dictionary to find the meanings of the words that he uses. But then the problem is that behind that colorful thing that you see there, there is so much of a pain that they experience. Out of those 500 major tribes of the continent, most of them were uprooted by the incoming Western people. They are actually thrown into the western part of the continent, or the central part of the continent, which has no resources. And the man says that he can still go back to his native, but he cannot hunt. He was trying to show how I should, you know, hunt, and then trying to use the boomerang, and of course, you know, on one occasion it has almost touched him. You know, thankfully he had bowed down and hence nothing had happened to him. Otherwise, you know, I would have carried that curse on my face. When Mowgli uses the boomerang, we think that it's child's play. But it becomes a very difficult thing when it touches where it should not touch. Maybe his neck was my target, I don't know. No, knowingly or unknowingly, that happens. He was actually narrating that, you know, it is good for my children because they are now exposed to the modern things and they are able to study. But then I don't have a life of the previous times. He is actually employed by the government there. The government is using these people for the tourism purpose, and several, you know, social scientists visit them for the inputs to study how their culture is changing. You know, along with there are several other people who actually try to look at the changing wildlife profile there, how wildlife is changing, how to conserve the wildlife. There is one project that is coming up there which deals with, you know, how indigenous knowledge can help curtail the vanishing aspect of the coral reefs, the Great Barrier Reef there. The Great Barrier Reef, which used to be a continuous strip earlier, now we see that it is only there in patches. It is disappearing. Now the government is trying to use the knowledge of these people, the intelligence of these people, so traditional knowledge as we call, so that they can once again rejuvenate the coral reefs there. So it is not simply a study of, you must understand this, it is not simply a study of the primitive people. It is not really a study of those exotic places. That was something like, in the initial times people used to think that, yes, this is the job of anthropologists to go into the wilderness and maybe try to spend there, try to look at the exotic life of them, but it is no more that. I hope I am giving you. Sir, gentlemen, if anybody is sleeping in your neighborhood, please thrash them properly so that, yeah. Let me take you to maybe a quick look at your syllabus. Then, because attending a class on a Saturday, I think it is a problematic thing, After 5 days of work, 5 days of classes, Saturday. Don't worry. Hand over your soul and mind to me so that I can do whatever with them. You just sit in the class, bring your bodies into the class. The rest of it, you leave it to me. You have 4 sections in your syllabus. Each paper has 2 sections. I'll give you a brief idea there, because it's very important to know which part of the syllabus is called what. Sometimes students finish their courses, write the exam, they do not know which section deals with what. And I'm not taking up questions such as, in this class, I'm not taking questions such as which are the important questions which have to be attempted, which have not to be attempted. That we will be doing as we get into the course. Because you see, it is not simply that, no, I should tell you what is important. I should also tell you what is not to be studied. Or to put properly, what is not to be attempted in the exam. There are certain questions which you are not supposed to lose in the exam. You should and must answer some of them. You should and must leave some of them, unless otherwise there is a knife at your throat and you have nothing else to do. So we will try to identify such areas for you. I saw you earlier also. Kada? Kada? I remember. I was thinking from the beginning. Because generally I have that memory anardanni, adu oka rakamayana paityam. So I can't forget the faces so easily. You did the course? No. You didn't do the course, no? Oh. That was the last decade, I guess. Chapter 1 in paper 1, 2, chapter 8. Chapter 1 to chapter 8 is the first section. We call it general anthropology. I could have called it social anthropology, but I cannot call because only from, say, chapter 2 we have several cultural things. Chapter 1 is the biggest one. Chapter 1 is the biggest one, which is actually a conglomeration of biological, sociological, archaeological, and various things. So it is safe to call the first section as general anthropology. And I have to give you a caution. See, if at all you are planning to study by yourself, one tip, because you have spent 2 hours, 1.5 hours here, you should get at least one tip from the class. The tip is, if you want to study by yourself, do not start with chapter 1. Many people who tried doing that, left the discipline. If that is your objective, you do it. Otherwise, you study the first chapter, that too 1.1 and 1.2 you are not supposed to study in the beginning. Meaning and scope of anthropology. I told you, you don't know in the first class what is the meaning and scope of the subject. Only after you study the entire discipline, you'll understand what the discipline deals with. That is the last class thing. And then from chapter 9, the rest of it is section 2, we call it biological or physical anthropology. Chapter 9 to chapter 12. I was trying to show something there in chapter 12 where we diverted. In chapter 12, you have so many applications, if you see, applied physical anthropology. You have things like sports applications, defense applications, DRDO Hyderabad. You have heard of DRDO Hyderabad. Has been doing a lot of anthropological work, developing instruments, devices, methodologies, training the defense personnel to deal with different climatic conditions. Many times it happens, organizations, people just in your neighborhood are doing something and you don't know that wonderful things are happening beside you. So when we go to the defense applications of anthropology, we are going to see what the DRDO has been doing to the soldiers. And when it comes to paper 2 there, paper 2 looks to be a cute one, small syllabus. Chapter 1 to 5 is section 1. We name it as maybe Indian society, Indian social anthropology. Though we also have, if you look at the first section, chapter 1 to 5 in paper 2, we call it Indian society or Indian social anthropology. In chapter 1, you will find there things like archaeological and then human evolution, etc. In spite of that, I am calling it Indian social anthropology. And then the rest of it from chapter 6 to 9, it is tribal anthropology. Tribal anthropology. Tribal anthropology. See, throughout the discipline, you are going to have examples from simple societies, which can be dubbed as tribes. But so, at most of the places, you would be using examples from the simple societies. Like, if you are trying to answer a question, look at chapter 2 in paper 1. Chapter 2, paper 1, that is maybe, when you go to 2.3. అసలు వింటేనే ఎంత హాయిగా ఉంది కదా, వింటే అలాగే ఉంటుంది. అదేంటో సినిమా వస్తుంది ఏంటి మన వెంకీ బాబుది ఏంటి కొత్తగా వస్తుంది. I am actually waiting desperately. Venki back in form. When you look at that, if you have to answer questions on marriage, most of the time you try to give examples from tribal societies alone. But then for our comfort of segregating the syllabus and trying to put the things in a proper sub-disciplines, we try to use this kind of a segregation, social anthropology, biological anthropology. Look at 1.2 in paper 1. 1.3 in paper 1. 1.3 in paper 1, you have several branches there. 4 branches are mentioned: socio-cultural anthropology, biological anthropology, linguistic anthropology, and archaeological anthropology. These are the 4 major disciplines that we are going to study. But then archaeological anthropology, I did not segregate while I am giving you the syllabus breakup. But then when we give you the books, etc., I give you separately archaeological anthropology, and I hope the superficial look is fine. Now I will tell you the sequence in which we are going to do and the methodology of study in the class, because after all, for that you are here today, not to hear about Zapukai or not to hear about Birko, though you would want to go there once, but ఆ ఊహ ఎంత బాగుందో అంట కదా. is, one can begin the discipline from whichever part of it. Some students walk up to me and say, will you first teach the basics, and then this discipline is so very diverse in the content that we cannot say something as a basic chapter and then I take you to a graduation one. It's not that way. Wherever you start, there are new terms, new concepts. You will have to learn basics for every chapter. So it will be like, chapter wise looking at things rather than. But then you see there are certain things that have to be done together. There are certain things that have to be done in a sequence that we more or less follow. But occasionally what happens is some of them can be clearly delineated from the others. You can distinguish them from the others. So because of that, there's a flexibility of beginning from anywhere except from chapter 1. And for me, actually, I do not want to begin with something like, chapter 2, 2.3 rather, marriage, kinship and family. I do not want to start from there. But many of you must have chosen the discipline looking at that chapter. ఏం చెప్తారో ఏంటో బాగా ఉలాటంగా అలాగా అలా వచ్చి క్లాస్లో కూర్చుని అట్లా ఏం ఉండదండి అక్కడ. I am speaking from my 7 years of experience and 3 years of my courtship. So altogether 10 years, I can say that there's nothing there. The problem with the Eastern world is that we close our fist and create a curiosity. There's a lot of curiosity. There are so many barriers, many times when you try to ask questions at home, your people must have said, do not ask questions. And all those questions, feelings, expressions, all of them are bottled up inside. You do not know where to unleash them because this is closed. And there is curiosity. దాని చుట్టూ తిరుగుతూ ఉంటాయి. There's nothing there. Once you realize this, you would become a yogi. Not that yogi. Those are different genre of yogis who have hundreds of I don't know what. But when it comes to our lectures from Monday, we would be beginning from chapter 3 of paper 1. See, in some of the batches, I start from anthropological thought, that is chapter 6 of paper 1. In some of the batches, I do it from tribal. In some batches, I do it from Indian society, but never from marriage. I tell you a secret. This is the beginning of the secrets between you and me. Secret ante telusu kada. Secret meaning it is between you and me only. Not that you put a trumpet and announce it to the world. But generally when I say it's a secret, that goes first out. There was a time when I wouldn't touch this topic in the class. I hated the topic so much. Until the time when I got married. And I understood the pain in it. Then after that, I started teaching this subject so that this particular chapter, so that people can decide otherwise. There are the other genres, other kind of people who wait your neighbor, your friend to take the chocolate. ఆ సినిమాలో చాక్లెట్లు ఇస్తాడు చూడు. మరి మాకెందుకు చెప్పలేదంటే నువ్వు లోపలికి వెళ్ళి తెచ్చుకో చాక్లెట్. సినిమా నాలెడ్జ్ చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్. Because we may pick up a very scene that you must have ignored conveniently in the movie. So you will have I am such a person, if I miss the titles, I watch the movie again. Oh kaadu adanamata. అలాంటి వాళ్ళు చాలా ఉంటాయి క్లాస్లో. ఎన్ని వాళ్ళు వేసుకుంటారు మీరు? కష్టం. And one thing I should tell you is, I know that the exam being the toughest one, it actually sucks every ounce of your energy, And caught in disillusionment, discouragement, and all that stuff. So my promise to the students would be that the class will be for entertainment. The class would be for entertainment. You enjoy the talks, maybe as a part of it you write, and there's other slightly painful thing of taking a dictation also, slightly other painful things of writing assignments and tests and all that will be there, that business will be there. But ultimately, you should be yourself in the class, forget what goes on outside, because each one of us have thousands of tentacles, thousands of problems. From those problems we pull ourselves into the class, and then when we are in the class, you will have to be totally with the teacher in the class, so that you absorb the most and you don't miss out anything that we said. See, I'd say this, nothing in the class will be casually said. You may think that some joke that was given in the class may be an offbeat one, but never that way. Even if there is some kind of a lighter moment, a joke that is given in the class that has some kind of a relevance in the discipline, otherwise it would not come out. And generally I work out more on my jokes for the class rather than the subject. Subject evadam cheptadu emon cheppu buchki ane vaadu nilbetna cheptadu kada. But then I strongly believe in building the concept base of the student. I'll look at some of the questions in the recent exam paper. The moment I picked up this came, ways of acquiring mate in tribal societies. Don't worry about that. We will see, I'm just reading out the questions to have a feel of it, because I'm sure most of us must have done a lot of research on them before. So it'll be like a rereading of the thing for you, but some of those souls who did not get the opportunity of going through the question paper, it is for them. Look at this chapter, question number 2 in paper 1. Explain the biological changes that made human beings capable of making culture. Actually, this is a very direct question, if at all you have prepared in that particular way. Why I am giving these statements is, many times the students were saying that questions have become very indirect, etc. That is good. If at all they are becoming indirect, they are not direct ones, that is actually a challenge. See, if everybody is writing the same kind of a stuff in the exam, you're preparing for the same kind of a question, what fun the examiner would get in evaluation. For examiner also, there should be interesting things. Your understanding, your command over the concept should come into very open in your answers. And then you have this one, how does customary law function in the tribal society? Discuss different sources of customary law. Then you have, what do you understand by national character studies? You have define ethnography and present a brief history of ethnographic studies. This is a question of chapter 8 in paper 1. Give an account of consequences of food production in the Neolithic culture. We have seen 1.6 and 1.8 Neolithic cultures. Critically examine the structure and content of language. Critically examine the structure and content of the language, how they are influenced by culture. There's a grammatical error in that question. You can look for this in chapter 7, paper 1. Look at chapter 7, paper 1. This is something to do with the language. It talks about structure of language, social context of language, etc. So 2 different things are combined in that. Then you have question number 4 there. How is the case study method helpful in understanding social phenomena? Explain with suitable example. See, generally, case study method that comes from chapter 8 in paper 1. Generally, when we study the subject, there is one other thing that students come up to me and ask. People demand, underline in quotes, people demand to give compilation of case studies. But you see, we try to sprinkle, I'll tell you the meaning of case study when the chapter comes. Without knowing the meaning of the word, people try using it. Many times it happens. We think that we know the meaning of it and we use it. And like how anthropology, we think that we know the meaning and we use it. when we discuss the concepts, throughout the discipline, we would be sprinkling several examples and references. And those examples and references have to be internalized. And it becomes the duty of the student to start compiling all of them. And that makes a beautiful list of examples, case studies, etc. And from time to time, I keep trying to add newer references, newer researches, so that your answers look fresh to the examiner. That's very important. If the same kind of examples, you are writing, your neighbor is writing, and your father also had written the same examples. Now, the same thing if the examiner is looking at, I am sure he will not be. So I tell you this, because this is what lays the foundation of what you are going to learn in the class. I say this, and some of my some previous students must have heard this from me. My dream for the student, and that has to be your dream too, we should have a common dream. Without a common dream, we cannot function. The dream is as such, you are writing, see, when you are writing an answer, you are writing an answer script for the examiner. That is your advertisement to the examiner. You are trying to present your personality, what you are, to the examiner. Your knowledge, your presentation, your language, your communication, everything is mirrored in your answer script. Your answer script must be so very beautifully laid out that once he has finished answering your, evaluating your paper, he has kept it aside, he has given you marks, he has kept it aside. And once he starts going through the other scripts, evaluating the other scripts, he should actually feel like going back to your answer script, pick it up and award more marks to you. You understand? There should be the tempting cravingness in the evaluator to give you more. I think once you start dreaming on those lines, working on those lines, I think your job is done. And right from the day one, you focus on internalizing the concepts. Every word that we do in the class, we should be able to be there on the notebook there. So broadly, if I put it here, I would start with, so I'm giving a rough sequence. A complete schedule will be provided to you in the next week. I mean, a complete schedule of those about 80 classes or so. With some bit of variation will be there based on the participation of the student. See, the student will not be the same every day. No? Sometimes you are more energetic, sometimes you are the other way around. And I always say this, teachers are performing artists. It all depends on the audiences, how the teacher performs. Manchi chappatlu kodite manchi vastayi, chitikelu iste atla, ila ante atla. So it all depends on how you respond. So with that leverage, somewhere between 80 and 85 lectures will be there. The entire schedule will be given to you. For you, I have decided to start with social anthropology of India. So there we would be doing from chapter 3 initially. 3, 4 and 5 we would do. 3, 4 and 5 we would do initially. And see, I have something in mind, a particular sequence. But looking at the crowd occasionally, what we, if at all the crowd is more agile, can take a lot of difficult blows of the hammer, then I try to pull up certain things like, archaeology, I would pull it to the front. And maybe perhaps generally, I follow a kind of a cycle. First, we would do something, when we are doing one tougher one, then I would do a lighter one, and then kind of, so that there would be some kind of a tough work for you, there's a relaxation period, and then kind of, that's how we try to structure our course. To begin with, we are doing it from chapter 3 of paper 2. So December 15th, Jan, Feb, March 15th, March end should it be done. Generally it is a 5-day course, but occasionally or on many of the occasions we would summon you on a Saturday and maybe occasionally a Sunday once in a while, and your tests will be on the weekends. Tests to likhna hai na? Tests should be on the weekends. Sir, do not have this feel that I would first listen to all the lectures, let the teacher stop talking, then I would do the study. No, don't have that. Along with the course you do. Don't really worry, it would not get into your prelim time. Okay? Because your prelim is more important for me than, because I want you to take up your main the same year. It's not that this year you have taken coaching, next year you are writing the main. I am against all those formulae. And that's how it is. Any questions from the crowd? Yeah, before that I should tell you. What we deliver in the classes, one of course is a detailed conceptual discussion that would happen, followed by, on many of the areas you will get dictations. And see, generally what happens is, not all areas I would dictate. It depends on what I feel is more important for the current year. The entire syllabus we would discuss, but formally dictating is mostly based on what is. So why I am saying this is, if you have caught hold of some notes of XYZ senior, that will be very different from what you are going to do. You should not be bringing that notes, madam, यहाँ पर dictation लिखाया मुझे ये नहीं, I mean, kind of a thing. That is a different one. Bygone is bygone. Somehow, though Ramayana is the same, I don't feel like narrating the same thing in the same way. There has to be some kind of a difference there. So one would be your conceptual discussion, second will be your dictations, and third will be your printed note that we are going to give you. And fourth will be your assignments, fifth will be your test, the Panchashila as we call. Rules have to be properly followed. People come up and ask me, 350, 360 is my target, can I do it? I don't know who you are. But I can say this, that if you follow the rules, then I will be able to help you out. See to it that you finish your assignments on time, tests on time, and by the time of April, you can close this down, put it aside, you focus on your pre, and then kind of. Doubts can be flexibly raised in the class because you are in the live class here. But if you feel shy to ask questions, many of the boys are shy in asking questions. So you can actually leave a note there on my desk before I come so that the answer can be picked up. You can as well put it on the portal, I guess. I don't know. I should have to talk to them. So on the portal, maybe you can raise your doubts. Anyways, for that matter, or after the class. I don't want the student to wait for a long time to clarify the doubts. Sometimes what happens is, and based on the relationship between you and me, if I share my number with you, you can perhaps start sending your questions also on my number. Number should be kept with yourself. Okay? That's the secret again. Those are the things, Panchashil, your conceptual based discussions, your dictations, your printed note, your assignments, and finally the tests. Tell me what you expected before coming to the class and what you got. మిమ్మల్ని ఎక్కడికో తీసుకెళ్దాం అనుకుంటాం మేము. ఏసీ చల్లగా వస్తుంది ఈజ్ నాట్ మై డిపార్ట్మెంట్. ఏముంది, బ్లాంకెట్ కప్పుకోవాలి హాయిగా. బ్లాంకెట్ లేకపోయినా పడుకుంటాం క్లాస్లో. Students have the luxury of sleeping comfortably in the class. And apart from the AC, what else? Books, I will tell you, we will minimize. See, it's something like this. Umpteen number of books I can give. List of books we give. But not to purchase. Okay, for example, one of the books that you are going to get will be this, the old question papers, etc., wherein I tried to give a short list of books there. And in the class, we will be talking about many more books. And even if you haven't studied those books, you should know the list of books. One, to have a better writing in the exam, because at many places you will have to quote the books. So in order to quote the books, you should know the titles and the writers. Secondly, in order to flaunt in front of your friends that, see, I know these. Because when we are talking about a book in the class, we will also tell what is there in the book. So you can pose as if you have read the book. This is all a psychological game that we play in the exam. When you show off that, see, I know this, the other's heart would sink. So I will tell you the very minimum kind of books, maybe everything put together about 5 books, and you're not reading any of the books cover to cover. You generally don't do that, you generally don't do that even otherwise. So, or see, as long as you are here in the class, we try to give you an idea from maybe the last 6 months or so what kind of articles have appeared, and then where exactly, in which component we should be adding, kind of a thing. Maybe from there you can take it up, once the course is done, you can start doing by yourself, because everything that might appear in the newspaper, see, when a news comes that some dig, they have discovered an archaeological dig and they found some kind of a human-like individual there, maybe possibly he was a Neanderthal man, kind of, the recent one. Not every such kind of news can be put in your answer. So there has to be some kind of verification to be done. How you verify, we will say, but to be brief, what I can say is, as long as you are here, we would be providing you with some article references, which from where you can draw some kind of current related things. With the kind of practice that you get in the class, maybe after the course also, you would continue to do that. Anything else? So you're all writing this year? Be clear, you're writing this year or next year? How many of us are writing this year? Any souls left out? You're not writing this year? 2019, huh? Any other question there? Hanji, please.
They gave described the culture related to Homo erectus. So when we study about evolution, we study culture as one of the components of evolution. So if such a kind of question comes for 15 marks, how would you break up the answer? Because culture we study.
Don't worry, bold undi. You can actually write a 30 marks answer on Homo erectus culture. It's only that for your comfort we try to segregate, shorten and crush it so that you get in the short form, but you will be able to get. See, it's something like this. As far as your content is concerned, you don't really bother. At one point of time in the future, you would cry out on the huge amount of content that is there with you. Okay. Your focus should be on understanding what we are talking in the class, getting a very clear conceptual understanding, and then from time to time, I did not tell you this, from time to time I will be giving you lists of questions that you will have to focus on. So you would be starting to write structures of those questions, you would start practicing back home those answers, etc. If you think that at any point of time there is a shortage of content, you come back, I would help out. Don't worry. And Hanji sir.
According to you, what would be the best answer for this question? Why anthropology? If it is asked in interview.
తినబోతు రుచులు ఎందుకు ఇంటర్వ్యూకి వెళ్తున్నారా ఈసారి? I mean, you have written mine this time? No. తెలుగులో అన్నట్టు అది లేదు ఇది లేదు ఏదో ఉన్నట్టు అట్లా, I mean, we'll take time. We'll take time because we will have to further study and then, okay? There's still time for that. And somebody here. Yes, completely we would do. And then it's like, I anyway would be giving you the sequence of things to do, where several of the physical things have to be combined with the social anthropology, we would be combining them there. Like, ecological anthropology, there is one chapter in, I think, 9.7, paper 1. Ecological anthropology, we will be clubbing with one particular school of thought in chapter 6, paper 1. In chapter 6, paper 1, there is something called neo-evolution. When we do neo-evolution, we would be clubbing that with ecological anthropology in physical anthropology, 9.7. I actually did not deal in today's lecture regarding, which are all the things that have to be kept in one bracket. I mean, when I am doing one chapter, a similar one from elsewhere has to be done along with that. All those things I would be doing in your first class. I will tell you which chapters I will be clubbing, etc. And
After the 3.5 months of your course, that how much syllabus will be you are going to be with 80% or 90 or 100?
మీకు ఎంత కావాలి చెప్పండి.
Generally,
Maybe about a 90% we do in the class, okay? About a 10% of it maybe we give in the form of handouts. లేకపోతే మీ డబ్బులు వేస్ట్ కదా. I understand the importance of every penny that you pay, which must have come from the hard work of your parent. And remember, any day when you don't feel like coming to the class, you remember how much you have paid for that day. Suppose 80 classes, whatever amount that you have paid per class, you must have paid some amount. Remember that amount, and I don't think you would want to sit at home. And you will have paisa vasool, don't worry. You will have information, you will have knowledge, you will have presentation, you will have entertainment, you will have everything. The 3-hour movie. Except that, ఏమంటారు వాటిని? I don't know. And? If you are in the offline, you are offline. If you are in the online, you are online. మధ్య రకంగా ఉండొద్దు. How many days you might be? See, it's like, in a very special case, maybe 2 or 3 days I am absent. We generally provide an opportunity to watch in the office. So we would see. And వెళ్దామా ఉందామా కొసేపు కబుర్లు చెప్పుకుందాం. ఎప్పుడు వెళ్ళిపోవాలా అని చూస్తున్నారు కదా. I know. Only today. Maybe from Monday, I'll ask them to remove this from the class. I hate that in the class. People would be looking at that more than looking at me. So I will ask them to shift it to that side. That's very important. And generally I ask them to close the door from outside. And there is only one entrance and exit here. కుడితిలో పడ్డ ఎలకలాగా మీనింగ్ తెలుసు కదా. So have a great time. Hoping to see you all on Monday. Have a good time. God bless you.